Palmer is one of the most famous golfers in history, well known for his contributions both on and off the golf course. His portrait is featured in the Champions exhibit at the Smithsonian's National Portrait Gallery, an exhibition that features American athletes of both past and present. While Palmer's achievements should not be discredited, it is important to further analyze both the social realities of the sport that he represents, as well as the context in which his image is so prominently displayed. Golf is a sport that has long been criticized because of its discriminatory practices and attitudes towards women. Of course, such discrimination is not limited to women, as golf has also long been under pressure for its racist tendencies, but this discussion will be limited to golf and women just for the sake of time. Before I begin, it is important to give a brief background history on Arnold Palmer. Palmer was born and raised in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. He was exposed to golf at an early age, beginning to caddy at the age of 11 and continuing to improve his technique throughout high school and into college. He turned pro in 1954, and throughout his professional career he won 92 tournaments, the highlights of which include winning 4 Masters tournaments, 2 British Opens, and a U.S. Open.
The official Arnold Palmer website lists 43 distinctly golf-related awards, including his 1980 induction into the PGA Hall of Fame and multiple distinctions for Golfer of the Century.
What sets Arnold Palmer apart, however, are his contributions, distinctions, and awards outside of golf. Even now, he continues to give generously to a variety of charity organizations.
He and his late wife, Winnie, did a significant amount of the fundraising that led to the creation of 2 hospitals, the Arnold Palmer Hospital for Children and the Winnie Palmer Hospital for Women and Babies.
Palmer is the winner of a variety of distinguished American and humanitarian awards for his charitable contributions, including the Byron Nelson Prize, an annual award given for charitable giving that he accepted earlier this year. That award came with a $100,000 donation to charity, which Palmer gave to his own charity, the Arnold B. and Winifred W. Palmer Charitable Foundation, to further support hospitals for women and children. Mr. Palmer's influence is tremendous.
He has hospitals named after him. He owns and has designed some of the most well-known golf courses in the country. He has his own clothing line, an airport named after him, the Arnold Palmer Regional Airport, located in his hometown in Pennsylvania. He even has a drink named after him, a mixture of half lemonade and half iced tea.
Based on his achievements, it comes as no surprise that Palmer is included in the National Portrait Gallery Champions collection. The painting of Palmer is fairly large, measuring 40 inches tall by 32 inches wide. In the painting, Palmer is sitting in what appears to be a country club office.
So you can see the golf course behind him, and he's wearing a pink jacket, but I looked and I couldn't figure out what the significance of the pink jacket was exactly. So I do know that the Masters tournament awards a green jacket to the winner, and Arnold Palmer did win that tournament 4 times. That tournament is held at the Augusta National Golf Club, which still does not allow women to compete. And there was a lot of controversy back in 2002 about whether or not they should allow women to compete. Palmer does remain a member of that club. And that is something to think about, since Palmer does clearly have such a huge influence on the public's opinion of golf.
Perhaps even more important than analyzing the actual painting of Palmer himself, noting the context in which the painting is found. The Champions exhibit was created in an effort to honor athletes whose impact has extended beyond their sports and made them a larger story of our nation.
The last section of the plaque on the wall describing the Champions selection reads, "With this selection of paintings and sculpture from its collection, the National Portrait Gallery salutes a diverse mix of legendary individuals whose impact has extended beyond the ring, the court, and the diamond to become a part of the larger story of the vibrant life and culture of our nation." So, based on the emphasis on diversity that the Smithsonian is placing on its Champions exhibition, it is interesting to know what is missing from the exhibit, and that would be women.
I could find 2 in the collection. Helen Wills Moody, a female tennis player from the 20s and 30s, is one of the women. Her head is on display in the form of a statue.
Josephine Culbertson, a bridge player who competed throughout the 20s and 30s, is also featured. She and her husband are found in a large painting that's hung almost directly across from Palmer. Other than Moody and Culbertson, I was at a loss for finding women athletes in this particular collection.
For all of his achievements and contributions, it is himself as a very honorable individual, and I'm not saying that his portrait should be taken down, but it is nonetheless important to question why the National Portrait Gallery would choose to include such a large image of an athlete who represents a sport mired by sexist controversy in a collection that is almost entirely male-dominated. Based on the express purpose of the Smithsonian in creating the gallery, it is difficult to justify almost completely excluding women from the champions section of the gallery. Perhaps it is true that women cannot run as fast, hit as hard, or throw as far as their male counterparts, but many notable women athletes have still made their own significant contributions to the athletic world, and certainly to society.
So why aren't female golfers like Mickey Wright included in the collection? Surely Wright's 82 professional tour victories are enough to qualify her as a great golfer. In fact, she was at the top of her game around the same time as when Palmer himself was competing most successfully. In a televised competition back in 1961, she and Barbara Romack actually beat Palmer and Dow Finsterwald. And yes, they were playing from the same tees. Perhaps the Smithsonian simply does not have a portrait of Mickey Wright, and that is why she is not honored. But if you conduct a search on the National Portrait Gallery website, the Smithsonian does have in its possession a watercolor painting of Patty Berg, one of the founding members of the LPGA. The fact that the museum has paintings of notable female athletes, but chooses not to put them on display, complicates the matter of determining what exactly their motives are in establishing a male-dominated athletic exhibition.
Moving from what is missing in the gallery to what is actually here, let's take a look at the pieces that are surrounding Palmer. On the one side is a painting of Byron Nelson. As I mentioned before, Palmer was awarded with the Byron Nelson Prize for Charitable Giving. Palmer has said that he holds the utmost respect for Nelson, so it is fitting that the two individuals are positioned next to one another.
Two images to the left of Palmer is a painting of Jimmy Connors, a famous tennis player. Here we have another athlete who represents a sport that is surrounded by accusations of sexist practices. Of note is the decision by Wimbledon to assign female players of lower ranking to the main court at the tournament in lieu of higher-ranked female players like the Williams sisters, who were instead delegated to the smaller side courts. Some claimed that this was done because the lower-ranked players were more feminine or more appealing to look at, but that's its own separate issue. For this argument, it is fair to make a parallel between the sports. Both tennis and golf clearly are both surrounded by sexist controversy, and at the same time, they are both sports that are very prominently represented in this Champions exhibition, which, as I said before, is almost completely male-dominated.
Ultimately, it is difficult to contest Arnold Palmer's place in the National Portrait Gallery's Champions exhibition. However, it is important to at least question what message the gallery is trying to send by featuring so many male athletes and so few female athletes.
So many of the athletes featured in this collection are included not because they're necessarily the best in their respective sports, and that's not to say that Arnold Palmer is not one of the best golfers in history, because he is, but the athletes who are included, who aren't necessarily the best, are included because they contributed something outside of sports to society, or they helped further develop the sports that they represent. So if we're working off of that logic, then it would seem that women would be just as deserving as men for inclusion in this collection. But as you've seen, the Smithsonian doesn't really reflect that in its decision for which pieces it displays in the Champions exhibition. Instead, they choose to very prominently display male athletes who represent sports such as golf and tennis that have long been surrounded in accusations of sexist practices and tendencies, while almost completely excluding women athletes from the collection.